I made 3 big mistakes in photography. It took me years to realize what I was doing wrong. The thing is that one of these 3 mistakes, not even now, after all these years, I wasn't able to fully correct it. While I'm saying this, you're probably thinking that these are some serious problems. And yes, they are. Wanna know why? Because they were made when I was just starting out as a photographer, when I was putting the key blocks, the foundation. If you start in the wrong way, it won't be easy to correct yourself afterwards. Let me tell you these 3 mistakes so that you won't do them. I believe that this will be a very useful lesson for every photographer, especially for beginners. Mistake number 1. In 99% of the time, I was photographing only in black and white. When you're a beginner and for months on the display of your camera you're only looking at black and white photos, you learn to see the world in shades of gray. You forget to see colors, to distinguish them, to name them. When you're always shooting in black and white, you exclude color from your way of seeing things. Now, don't get me wrong. Even from the beginning, in my first DSLR days, I was shooting in RAW format. So when I went home, I had the possibility to bring back the color. After noticing this mistake, it took me some time to figure out how to compose my shots that had color in them. Black and white photography has its own beauty. It determines us to focus more on shapes and forms, and it eliminates colors that would distract the viewer's attention. It's good to make black and white photos, but not to exaggerate with them. We mustn't entirely exclude color from our photos. Mistake number 2. Despite the fact that I had 2 lenses, 80% of the time I was using the one with the biggest zoom, a 40 to 150mm lens on a micro four thirds sensor camera. By using a zoom lens for such a long time as I did at the beginning, you very well can become a lazy photographer. This happens because you're not getting closer by using your legs, but by zooming with your fingers. Don't get me wrong, we can get some nice shots with the telephoto zoom lens, no problem. But the human eye doesn't see everything compressed as a telephoto zoom lens. The viewer is much better integrated into our photo when we are closer to the action and when we are using a wide-angle lens. I'm gonna put this quote on the screen so that this lesson will stick with you. It's from the legendary photographer Robert Capa. He was saying that if your pictures aren't good enough, then you're not close enough. This is one of the wisest lessons in photography. A photo that was taken at close range has more life in it. That's mainly because nature provided us with eyes that make us see everything wide. Now, if you're a fan of using only big zoom lenses, from time to time use also lenses that are no longer than 35mm on an APS-C sensor and 50mm on a full-frame sensor camera. By only using a big zoom lens, we stay far away from the action, and that's the comfort zone. We forget to speak or interact with people, and on top of that, we fail to show the intimate stories that a wide angle gives. Mistake number 3. It's a mistake that even now, after all these years, I wasn't able to fully correct. And this is it. In low light conditions, when I wanted to freeze the action, I wasn't using fast shutter speeds. Remember the things that I'm about to tell you right now. Whether you're outside or inside and you don't have a flash, don't go lower than shutter speeds of 1/250th of a second. If you're using flash, make sure not to go lower than 1/160th of a second. I lost a lot of good shots because I was using long shutter speeds. I was using 1/60th or 1/80th of a second. While shooting, I was saying to myself that these shutter speeds will freeze the action. As soon as I got home and saw the photos on a large screen, surprise, the action was not frozen. This wasn't happening because I wasn't able to stay still while pressing that shutter button, but because the subjects are always moving. Okay, now let me explain what encouraged me to do these 3 mistakes. The first 2 mistakes, I was making them often because my favorite things to do are instantaneous shots. I was shooting only in black and white because I noticed that this was helping me to focus more on shapes and on the action. The second mistake, using that big zoom lens, I was making it because the long zoom allowed me to capture more things faster. But the easy way is not always the smart way, especially in the long run. The third mistake, the one with the long shutter speeds, I was making it because back in the day I had a very poor performing camera in low light, an Olympus E410. It was making some bad photos if I was bumping up that ISO just slightly. By being afraid not to raise that ISO, I was using those long shutter speeds. A lesson here, don't be afraid to raise that ISO, especially with these new cameras that came out. It's much more better to capture what you have to capture than to lose the moment. To sum it all up, these are the takeaways. 1. Shoot in RAW, but don't let the camera only on black and white. 2. Avoid using only tele zoom lenses. And 3. Bump that ISO and use fast shutter speeds if your intention is to freeze the action. I hope that this was useful. If so, go ahead and press that like button. It really helps a lot. This is The Learning Photographer. Remember, pro or beginner, we are always learning. See you next time.